So once I figured out, you have to break it into smaller goals.
Gotcha.
You have to make it fun and interesting. And if that's like, you want to catch one person, or you want to make a new friend on this climb,
Right.
I'd always try to find these other specific goals to keep me focused on that and not get distracted by how much more I had to do.
Looks like we are live. Hello, Ironman and Beyond Facebook group athletes. How are you guys doing? We have our guest. His name is Jeff Mishtawy, and he's actually from Florida. And what we're going to be talking about today is double vEveresting. So let me just give you more background. vEveresting is actually climbing onto hill repeats on Zwift, and actually inside or indoor cycling. So what Jeff, our guest and my friend, since I've been talking to him since last year, is actually he did a double vEveresting within about 20 hours. And what I would like us to discuss today is how did he do it? How did he do it? We're going to talk about his nutrition, what he felt during, if he felt any pain, how did he deal with it? What kind of support, what kind of, like tips that whoever's actually wanting to climb, not necessarily, I mean, you can do vEveresting or even double vEveresting, but at least to climb or jump onto the trainer, is it a good idea? Or we're just like trying to trick you. But hey, here you go. Jeff Mishtawy, welcome. And thank you so much. I believe you're 3 hours ahead. Yeah, 4.
Yep.
So it's like 5, 6, 7. You haven't had dinner.
7 o'clock, yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for your time. We are so eager to actually learn more about your adventure. Let's talk about it. So first of all, I met Jeff, believe it or not, just one of the Facebook groups. And it's an official Everesting Facebook group. And at the time, I was like, maybe I can get some idea from these people because I was interested about vEveresting. Well, in fact, I didn't know about Everesting in the past. This was just last year because of COVID. And then I stumbled on Jeff and then realized that he's actually planning to do double vEveresting. So now when I asked hey, Jeff, when are you going to do it? And he said, I think it was like this weekend. And what time are you going to start? So I was trying to pick his brain because I kind of probably wanting to do it too. So in fact, Jeff actually inspired me. I followed him, asked him a lot of questions. But before we get into the Everesting, what I wanted to share to you of what are the other things besides cycling that he's been doing. Let me just share to you one of the things that I actually really love about him is his creativity. He designs all this exotic tables. And he does it on his own. And in fact, he just started as a hobby last year. And then now it became, he has clients and his artwork is actually now in galleries. That was only last year, right, Jeff?
Yeah, only last year.
Did you just pick it up or you?
Yeah, it was one of those things. It just clicked. All the ideas were just right. So
Look at that.
I did 1 or 2 and that turned into a couple clients and then that turned into more clients and then it just kind of went insane after that.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that he does. Besides cycling, he also works in one of the companies that's owned by NASCAR, all this race cars. So whoever's interested about this, you can ask him too. But so that's about Jeff on the outside world of indoor cycling. And of course, he has his very supportive wife. Now, Jeff, when did you complete the double vEveresting?
Late summer last year. I had kept a little bit of a lid on it beforehand because it was a goal that I wasn't sure if I'd be able to hit, so I didn't want to be too vocal about it.
Okay.
As I said, other goals I can normally talk about a little bit, but this one was pretty much done. It started in secret.
Why is that? I'm curious.
Well, anything else that I've done with any kind of the goals in cycling, whether it's, my racing at an amateur level, or with the single Everest or the base camp when I did that, I knew that there's no question I was going to finish it. I just wasn't sure if I'd get the right time on it.
Gotcha.
The double Everest was different. I really wasn't sure if I'd finish it. I just,
interesting.
amount of time, I wanted to keep the expectations low.
Sure. And also it was your first time also. I mean, you have been a cyclist. It was your first time to actually do a double vEveresting at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
At the time, there were only 22 others that had done a double Everest period.
Wow.
So it was cool to be one of the really
part
first
of it, right?
And it was the second fastest ever time. I think a couple other guys have gone faster now.
20 hours at the time.
Yeah, I missed it by like 20 some minutes, which I should.
For the first one.
Yeah, and if I would have known, like I wouldn't even keeping track of pace. If I would have known, I absolutely could have picked that up.
Yeah. I know when we were talking about it at the time, or even before that, you were aiming for like a pace wherein you're gonna finish at 20, like under 20 hours, and then you said and something happened. So, but before that, let me ask you. So, when did that idea of double vEveresting came out before you actually did it? Was that months?
Well, kind of. So the idea of Everesting sort of, it hit me a little bit. And for the first response is, why in the world would anybody do this? A friend of mine had done one in the real world in 2019.
Okay.
I saw this, he did repeats on this hill, and I'd never heard of this before. And I'm like, Larry, you are absolutely insane. So that just stuck. And then I couldn't let it go. I'm like, well, how would it look? Like, how would I do that? So then that turned into, well, I really extensively planned my single Everest, all the feet that I have, all the time that I would spend doing it, power goals, et cetera, et cetera. So then, that turned into, well, how fast could I do a base camp? Or there's many.
Okay.
And a base camp's a half an Everest, but to do it as fast as I possibly can, like just maximum effort. So that was it's 4 climbs of Alpe du Zwift for a base camp. And I think I averaged 46 minutes and 20 some seconds per climb.
Gotcha.
So that was super fast. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm done Everesting. And then like a week later, I'm like, well, there's this double Everest thing. And I started looking up like, oh, God, that's going to take me so long. How can I do this?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'll never do this. And then again, I just couldn't let it go. Like, well, if I were to do it, how would it go? And what would I need? And then like, suddenly I just started planning on it. And there was never a moment where I decided, or like, I just blended into it.
It looks like it was more of like out of curiosity.
Yeah.
You heard about it.
About me.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't believe people would want to do that. Wait a second. Am I capable of it?
You started thinking about it, and you started calculating, and you started like planning.
Yep. And
not knowing really even, and you said, correct me if I'm wrong, when you did it, did you know whether you're going to finish or not?
No, no. So where prior, all my friends knew I was going to do an Everest. I invited them all to do along with me.
Everesting, which is 29,000. So 29,000 feet elevation gain for Everesting just one time. So what we're talking about, everyone, if you're listening today, just #live. And if you're listening to replay, #replay. We have Wendell, Alicia, Emmeline. Welcome. If you have questions, just ask below. So the what you did is double vEveresting, which is, if I'm about 58, right? About somewhere there.
58,000 feet or so.
Elevation gain. Before we talk more about the double vEveresting, how long did you finish did you do a one-time Everesting, or you just jumped in?
That's the first thing I did was a single Everest.
How long do you remember?
In about 9 hours, I think. Yeah. 9
hours, right?
Yeah, like
and to some people might think like, I'll just double it, maybe 18 hours. But it's not really straightforward like that. A lot can happen on that double vEveresting.
Yeah, I mean, you're spending 9 hours. That was, I mean, I averaged like 56, like my climbs were about 55 minutes or 55, 56 minutes.
Sure.
On the single Everest.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can keep that pace up. But at the single Everest, I was pretty gassed after that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna have to back the pace off if I'm gonna do a double. I don't know if I keep on doing that.
Gotcha. And did you back off the pace when you're doing? Oh, okay.
No.
So you kept up with the pace around 55 minutes every hill. Is that right?
Well, so
kind of.
Again, I did this the completely wrong way, and I still, right. So my first climb, I went just complete maximum effort, right. So you have to do 17 and a half climbs. My first one. So if you scroll down, like I think you can get the time, but I did 6.
About 46 minutes. Yeah.
I just did the complete maximum effort. Okay, well now I'm just going to destroy my legs, right? and see how it goes. So what I wanted to do was taste pain early on. I wanted to know I really, really would like to hurt. So then everything else is going to feel easy.
I'm not sure I can understand that logic, but it worked for you. Let me see how many hills is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, about 17, I think.
Yeah, 17 and a little bit extra.
Okay, so for everyone who's watching this one and not familiar, the hill that he did was the Road to Sky, or Up This Was, and it's about 3,500 feet elevation gain every hill. So he did that 17 times. And as of right now, he, based on his average, he's averaging for 45 minutes, or let's just say 45 to 1 hour every hill. So anyway, it's like 20 hours total with all the stops, right?
Because, well, the descent time, you have to consider, right? So that really adds a lot onto it. Yeah. And as it turns out, I did, and during the double Everest, I beat my single Everest time.
Yes. Okay. The first Everest. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So when I did the single Everest before, I won't be able to do that again.
Yeah. And you beat it.
I ended up beating it by like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I did the same. Yeah. I was so happy. I wish I could count it.
I was just focused on it.
Yeah. And how did it go in the second time of the second portion of that double vEveresting? Was it harder?
Not great. No, that I went way too hard early on. I absolutely should not have done what I did.
Okay. You get
a couple of things worked out well, and a couple of things didn't.
Sure.
So I decided, having worked in the motorsports industry, I work in endurance sports car racing, and we do a lot of 24-hour races. Now, they're for the teams, they rotate drivers and whatnot. And I've worked as the lead strategist. I've finished on the podium many, many times of some of the most prestigious races as a team leader and strategist. So I knew what it's like to work completely around the clock. And so I over that. Sure. And I realized that the hardest time for me is right around that 4:35 in the morning mark till about 6 or 7. Right.
Me too. Me too. It's like about to sleep.
Exactly. So you're exhausted. It's still dark out. Like your body's saying, like you probably shouldn't be doing this right now. So I decided, well, hang on, since I get to write the rules of this, so why don't I start at like 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I'm still relatively fresh when I get to what's going to be the lowest point. Whereas if I started in the morning, I'd end up there real deep into the ride.
Yep.
So I'm glad sleep-wise, it probably wasn't best because I worked a whole day at the office, home, and immediately started on a double Everest. But I think timing-wise, that worked out really well. But after the first half of it, that's when the legs went away, right? And then the power dropped off pretty dramatically. My times went from 55, 56 minutes to, I think my slowest was like an hour 20.
Okay.
And that was just everything I had. I was completely gassed. So I've got this video of these leg cramps that I had and how they're just these spasms all over my legs. And so I had to stop while those were happening. Yeah.
Well, calculating the time, I know that you started around 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. So you finished like around 10 hour or 9 hour for the first vEveresting, 9 hour. So that would be around 3 a.m. Right? And if you think about it, the way your alertness, you said like around 4
Yeah.
a.m. when it's like the low point. And then now, is that the time that you cramped?
Yeah, actually, ironically,
Yeah, right.
at the same time. Yeah.
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 Because guess what? That's when I actually messaged you. Hey, how's it going, Jeff? And that was around 4:30. I was so curious. And Jeff was saying, like, I was on that point to actually finish like under 20 hours, but I'm cramping. So, and then I'm like, shoot, what are you doing now? And you mentioned at the time that you actually had friends supporting you during the actual double vEver. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
were they riding with you?
not only riding with me on Zwift online, but
Okay.
a couple folks stopped over to, and my wife,
Oh,
she's helping. So,
that's very nice.
that made it a lot nicer.
Good. When you cramped, what did you do? Because a lot of athletes actually have trouble on cramping, especially it looks like yours was a more of a worst case scenario because you're having spasm. Was it like throbbing? And
no, it looked like I had aliens under my skin.
Damn. All
These
right.
fibers are all doing individual things. It's really bizarre. And even when I was racing bikes all the time, I never really I had cramps one time in all the years. So I was never really prone to it. So what I did, as soon as I could move my legs enough to get to the kitchen, I went in, I grabbed a pickle jar and just downed a whole bunch of brine.
Just eat the pickle jar.
Yeah. So just downed a whole bunch of the pickle brine. And 15 minutes later, it was everything was pretty much back to normal.
Nice.
The guy just underestimated my need for salt.
Did you cramp again after that? Oh, okay, good,
No.
good. So anyone else experience cramping? What you guys do? Put it under the comment. That'll be great to know. If you guys did chug in a lot of pickle juice, make sure. It looks like it worked for Jeff, and definitely a lot of the endurance cyclists. That's what they do. They just buy those pickles, even when we were doing cycling across America. Or is it Masterwork too? No, it was pickle, if I remember correctly. Anyways, so that was the training. And then were you falling asleep during daytime? Because you have not. Did you sleep?
I got off
20
the bike
hour nap.
Yeah, it was like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Is just
okay. That's awesome.
So it's really not much. That's
awesome. That's good. I really like your timing because that's what I would do if I do it again, because the timing definitely, I think it makes sense in terms of sleeping, which is great because, it didn't add in your elapsed time. To me, it added up. So yours is like 15 minutes, which is amazing. But the power went down, you said.
Yeah. So I was just so exhausted. And I kept on thinking that, I'd push myself too hard too early. Which is, I kind of knew it, like I didn't, but
yeah.
So when I couldn't turn the pedals over, it was just the strangest thing. Like I'm used to riding. I mean, at the time I had an over 5 watt per kilo FTP. I mean, I was in killer shape.
Yeah.
Here I am struggling. I can't even do 2.5. I can't even do 2.5 watts per kilo. And that's, it was all I had to do that.
Did it take a while for to be at that 2.5, 2.5? Or
to get down to that?
Yeah. No, I mean, were you able to ramp it up once it reached 2.5? Oh, okay, so there was just like a down point. Yeah,
there's a couple of the climbs where it was part mental, it was part physical.
I heard. Yeah, I hear you. Welcome, Daryl. Glad you're here. So looking at his Strava again right here. If you guys have any questions, make sure to just comment down below and we'll make sure that we answer them. So here, his average power is 172, max 452. Yeah, calories a lot to 12,000. Yeah, that's pretty fast. But that's more of the the data. But what did you eat?
Yeah, so a lot of stuff.
I'm curious.
I don't know if you'd recommend.
But go ahead. We want to know.
So, a lot of the guys who do like really long gravel rides end up like the 200 milers.
Mm-hmm.
So they have. I learned a couple things from them. Potato chips is a big one for salt and carbs.
Perfect. Right? Yes.
So I always have chips around, and I try to stick to real foods. I don't do a lot of gels or sugars. So
all right, good.
I'll have a turkey sandwich, something light, pesto, Like I made a pesto penne. But my sugar is going to be a sucker for Sour Patch Kids.
A what? Which one?
Not Swedish fish.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Were you
I always have
snacking on
Swedish
it?
fish.
Were you
Yeah,
snacking
for
on
sure.
it? Okay, so it's not really like on the dot, right?
No.
Okay.
No. It's always just a little bit of time here and there. Every time you descend, and by the way, the average power includes your descents where I'm not doing anything. So the average power is just exceedingly low. Sorry, I got to brag.
Yeah.
I think my average climbing power was like 230 watts for.
All right. Hey Strava, put the average time climbing. Strava, 230 on the climb. I totally understand. Yeah, because
I think I put it in my comments. I think I put it in the description.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I try to stick to real foods, and the same when I do because I've done these mega long gravel races too, and the same thing there. When I meet up with my checkpoint, my wife is awesome. She'll drive the car and she'll meet me at certain points.
Yeah.
Discuss nutrition, so she knows where to be and what time. And I will have charted out the course and kind of figured what my pace is going to be.
Sure. So
she's always beat me. I've never beat her to any of the checkpoints, and she always has everything stocked. Oh, regular Coca-Cola too, just regular old school Coke, and in a can. It has to be in a can.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's your preference, right? The can.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Regular. Okay. Got it. I thought it's like regular can. Okay. No, but Coke regular. Cool. Let me see. Chips, turkey sandwich, Swedish fish. Anything
Swedish
else?
fish.
Did you change your meal? That penne you said that.
Yeah, like pasta. Yeah.
Okay.
I had some hummus at one point.
Yummy.
All
right.
Some fresh vegetables. I had some pre-diced cucumbers and tomatoes that I'd put some salt on. So it was just something not anything really nice and light. I got to a point where it was actually hard to eat. So I was just so exhausted.
Yeah.
So deep in the ride though, my wife made, when I was at my real low point, I'm like, all right, let me have a huge protein shake. So I had a really big protein shake.
Okay.
And that just snapped me right back.
Yep.
So that was when I was able to go right back up in power. And I just think I'd missed something, and that with all the vitamins in it, I got something.
Okay. In terms of the hydration or fluid, so you had the protein shake. Did you have anything else or just water?
No. So sometimes it's water. Sometimes it's a 50-50 mix of like Powerade and water.
Okay.
I don't like it too much. So I try to get each hour. So basically 1 hour per climb, basically.
Okay.
I try to do one bottle. Sometimes I would do two.
Is that like 16, 20 ounce?
20, yeah.
Okay. All right, good.
So
good stuff. Are you guys getting some ideas here? Welcome, Amy, Christina, Angie. If you're listening to this or watching it, put hashtag live, hashtag replay if it's a replay. Good stuff. Okay. Let me see. Carb load, anything like in the morning? Okay. All right. Good.
No, just pretty. I've never really subscribed to that to obsessing about it. I mean, it's ultimately we're pretty simple machines. Ultimately, right? We need calories, carbs, fats, sodium.
Totally.
And that's as long as you get those in some form. And
agree.
It works.
I agree. When I know you had that, every bottle, right? But sometimes we don't know like how the body's gonna feel. Is there anything that you had to adjust? Like what was your intuition, like, hey, something's going on with my stomach. Like, did you have to adjust in any part of that 20-hour ride? Especially because, intensity also, right?
Yeah. On the single Everest, I got nauseated about 2/3 of the way through. And
high intensity, or going fast. I would be. I'd be falling apart.
So I realized that I had too many carbs. I ate too many carbs. So it was just you had
to slow down
carbs, and it just really upset my stomach, and I almost threw up on the bike.
Oh my God.
On the single Everest.
Yeah.
So I learned that, and I dialed back my carbs a little bit and up my protein intake and up my intake, and then I was fine the whole time. As far as comfort on the bike.
That's what I'm about to ask. Like,
I mean, I set the bike up a little bit different. Normally, like my stem is always really slammed and it's all about aero, but I really relaxed to fit on my bike. It's a little more upright than I normally would be.
Yeah.
I put a slight uptick on the stem, but put a shorter and a slightly higher set of bars on it.
Okay.
Just so I can be a little more comfortable. And every 2 or 3 climbs, so every 2 or 3 hours, I change my kit.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Did you take a shower? No, not in between.
I never did.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
well, I mean, obviously afterward.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. And this is basically the bike you were using during training. How about like ventilation? You know, fan, air condition. Yeah. Did you do anything? Window?
Air conditioned space.
Okay.
I just had the one fan on me and then one on my trainer just in case.
Ah.
Got hot.
Wow.
That's the longest I'd ever run it. So like I just didn't know.
Right.
So I just decided to blow a fan on the trainer too.
Okay. And then in terms of electronics, I know you had the Swift electronics, but did you have like a backup just in case something happens?
No.
Basically, just Garmin. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I had my laptop.
Sure.
I had a backup internet connection if I needed it.
Okay.
But that was about it. No, I probably should have thought about that a little bit more.
Well, you finished it already. I'm glad you did. Yeah. When I was doing, I even had GoPro, like just making sure. Oh, I actually have live stream too, which is
yeah, you did. Yeah, that's how
it was embarrassing. Yeah, it was embarrassing when my power suddenly going down. I'm like, oops, everyone's seeing it.
Boy, doesn't that suck? Like, there's nothing you can do.
I know, especially when you're falling asleep. Well, I was. So that's why your time was during the day or night when you're going to start. It really depends. So for Jeff, he thinks that, it will be much better to start at 6 p.m. But other people, you guys, if you guys are watching this one, if we're in your higher energy, could be another time. So time it, because that's really important. Let me see. Well, what were you doing during the downhill? The descent?
So that's, get off the bike, refill the bottle, grab it back, change my kit.
All right.
I got pretty good at timing it.
Yeah.
So I spent minimal time stationary, either at the top or bottom of the climb. So it's nice. And this is the one thing about virtual Everesting that's great is that you get to climb off the bike.
I know. Yeah. Do you have an average on the, that get up, go to the restroom, refill?
Oh, 11 minutes. I have 11 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. I
have 11 minutes.
I was timing myself too. I actually had a timer and I put there 8 minutes and like, oh, if I have to do it, just 1 minute, 2 minutes, it's like I just really want to like reduce the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
I'd gotten good at my turnaround points to make sure that they were keeping those minimal. And it'd be nice if I could get on the bike right before I hit the bottom and then just start again.
Yes. Was there a time? Okay, so we talked about training. If you guys have any other questions in terms of, like how he trained for it, how did you train for it? I actually did not go into deeper.
No.
Just ride more.
Well, I mean, I don't oversimplify it. I'd been racing, really road racing, crits, and time trials for several years.
Outside, of course.
So I had a pretty good amount of base fitness. And then during quarantine, basically all I did every day was spend 2 or 3 hours every day just going completely max efforts and take 1 day of recovery and then 4 days of just hard efforts. So I had this really great base fitness coming into the single Everest, the base camp. And then I just backed off a little bit and rested for the double Everest.
Gotcha.
I think I'd put the time in already. I don't think there's anything I can do from the time I decided to do it to the time I actually did it. There was only about 2 weeks. So
okay. So now I know you mentioned about your cycling experience. Now about indoor cycling experience, because have you been cycling for a while?
Yeah. So I mean, So I was racing in the real world.
So I was. But in terms of indoor cycling, when did you really start?
Last year.
Last year too. So everyone, like, if it's not, you don't have to be indoors, doing indoor cycling for like many, many years to get on it. Because honestly, to me, I didn't like it, but I had no choice because of the COVID. But it worked out. And it did. So now we talked about training. We talked about nutrition, the ventilation. Let me see what else. How about, and we talked about your cramping during the actual double vEverest. Is there anything else that you felt pain during the actual event itself?
Just mental.
Mental. What was the
anguish.
mental? What was going on in your head?
Yeah, at about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, I had hit this
Okay.
emotional low point. I mean, I'm pretty interested in endurance stuff,
Sure.
and I'd realized I still have hours to go.
Sure.
I was exhausted. I was falling asleep. I was having a hard time keeping my eyes open, so my head would nod off.
Yeah.
I'm pedaling. It's strange. Like, I've heard people say it, but I never really got it.
Yeah.
Until it was happening to me, and I thought, so it's falling asleep, and I was sad because I couldn't do any power, and I was like really emotionally vulnerable. And my wife was
because you could see your power in front of you.
Yeah,
it's annoying.
There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And so my wife is in the room with me, and she's not really paying attention. She's resetting an iPad, and she's having a problem with it. And I heard her getting frustrated about it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have affected me, but I was like so emotionally down, like it brought me to tears.
You were sensitive. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I just want to help her, but I can't because I'm doing this stupid thing. And why am I doing this? And
yeah.
But I didn't expect the emotional part at all.
How did you overcome through it, though?
Honestly, I just got the goal. Like, each time was, okay, I just got to get up this one hill. Okay, I just got to get up this hill one more. So I broke it down into smaller bites.
Was there a time like when you're on that hill and then like, man, this hill is just taking so long than usual?
Yeah, when I was trying to keep my power above. If you've ridden on Zwift, you know it's all about watts per kilo, and it's very specific watts per kilo goal on the climbs. And I was just watching it under my goal, and it just takes the life right out of you.
Yeah. So that I know when you saw it at 2.5 WPK, right?
Yeah. When I saw that, and people that were riding with me, like because I put, like, if you're ever Everesting, put it in your name, so people they'll support you, they'll ride with you, they'll send you. It's very encouraging. Yeah. And that, I tell you, those people really got me through some of the low points. Because when I was doing that, like, they'd send me dad jokes, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Everybody was really, really friendly.
Definitely. It makes a big difference.
Ride along and let me draft a little. Like, even though you're climbing, you can kind of sort of draft a little bit, but it's nice to have that encouragement.
Yeah. For everyone who have not heard my story, actually, Jeff is one of those handful of people who actually bike with me virtually. And literally, I was like one of the last 2 hills we're in. It's kind of like when you're outdoor, and like all I was just doing was just looking at the back of his avatar on Zwift, because it was just like one of the lowest, but I just want to get it over with. And it's just like kind of like drafting, but not really, but it's virtual. So it's kind of weird, but mentally having all this support does help. That what he said, like, those jokes or like little messages did help me too. So make sure to, have your friends know if you're attempting even one time or double, have support there. Yeah.
Yep.
So mental, any other tips that you did that you think helped when you were doing the double vEveresting?
Yeah. You got to keep it interesting somehow,
How did you do it?
Well, there's a lot of monotony, right? And I think that's what really got me into a mental low point. So once I figured out, you have to break it into smaller goals.
Gotcha.
Right? You have to make it fun and interesting. And if that's like, you want to catch one person, or you want to make a new friend on this climb,
right.
I had always try to find these other specific goals to keep me focused on that and not get distracted by how much more I had to do.
Yeah. Little things actually matter. So I think we cover a lot, actually. Let me make sure. Let me see. Mindset, strategy, sports. Besides your wife, your friends, is there anything else that actually help you get through it? Like people? How about people online that you don't even know? Yes, or
yeah. So I've made a couple of friendships from that. A pro cyclist from England. He was on my very last climb. Last 2 of them, he was just starting his training, and he saw what I was doing. He saw him like 350 kilometers in, and he's like, "What in the world is this?" So he just started riding. He abandoned his training plan for the day and was along with me, because he was just we kept in touch ever since. So He's going to a race in Miami, hopefully later this year. So we're actually going to meet up in real life.
There you go.
We'll ride together.
Well, hopefully I meet you in person too, Jeff.
Yeah. And then another guy from California. He was the guy that did, what did he do? He did like 14 Everests. So like every weekend for 14 weeks, he'd do an Everest.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he comes out here once a year to do a bike thing. So we're gonna meet up later.
Maybe that could be one of my goals. Welcome, Gabby. welcome. All right. Well, Jeff, how about let me ask you, what are the top 3 things that you can advise those people? I know you've said so many things already.
Yeah.
For example, athletes who are like new to Everesting, because I was new then, like
yes,
something that's for them, like, what can you encourage or give them advice if they're about to attempt at Everesting, or at least to climb on?
Yeah. Well, first of all, be organized beforehand, right?
Organized.
Sure, you have your towels, your food, your drinks. You don't want something and not have it. It's better to have too much set aside and set up than not enough.
Gotcha.
So really, really think about it.
Strategy. That would be strategy. Yeah.
Think about where you're going to put your change of clothes. Make sure you have chamois butter.
There you go. Now she put that in.
and that's actually that's one of the things that I want to mention to people also, is that you have to protect your body.
All right. That's the chamois butter.
after the single Everest, I never use. I hate this. I really hate it. So on the single Everest, I paid the price for me. So
yeah,
I had made it a point on this one. So seriously, you got to take care of your body, and that also means your hands. You're going to be on the bike longer than you probably ever have. I end up getting really bad blisters because I didn't wear thick enough gloves.
Wow.
And, so like, be really careful. So be organized. Really take care of yourself, and then your equipment. Make sure you spend time. You don't want to have any kind of mechanical issue. So make sure you spend time with your bike. Make sure it's a new chain. Make sure it's in good shape. Make sure it shifts right. Make sure it's a fresh cassette and everything's clean.
Yep.
So those were, if I pick 3, take care of yourself, take care of your equipment, and be organized about it.
Awesome. Great job, Jeff. So I want to ask you, are you gonna do probably a vEveresting or outside? What's next for you? Or besides, once you get healed up, I know Jeff's actually had some accident with his thumb, still recovering. But I'm sure you're gonna be
a little bit shorter.
Oh my God, look at that. It's about 1/2 inch. He had an accident. And so I was asking him, like he actually did not ride for 2 weeks. And he was telling me that was the longest time that I did not ride for the last 12 years.
12 years. Yeah.
2 weeks. That's normal, probably, people. Jeff, be normal.
No,
all right. So
so I was kicking around the idea. We had a few things happen in our personal life, and I wasn't able to really focus on training. So, my fitness slipped. Last year, I hit some really high numbers, and I wasn't able to maintain it once quarantine was over and I started traveling more for work. So it slipped a little bit.
Gotcha.
It leveled off.
You're resting for a bit. Got it.
And then I'm like, I wonder if I could just go and do a single Everest. So I was, up until the moment I hurt my hand, I was thinking I was starting to plan it. So now at some point in the future, I'll do it. This year, I'll do a single one again.
Nice. Awesome. We'll probably beat the second vEveresting that you did inside the double vEveresting. That'll be great.
I mean, it only takes like 10 hours, right? I mean, 10, 11 hours. Well, if you're moving, right?
Yes.
And
not so bad. It's like riding a 200 mile.
Exactly. And so last year I did 5 200+ mile rides.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing. It sounds daunting.
Nah.
It really does, but trust me, you're capable of it.
Yeah. I think sometimes we overthink things.
Yeah.
And then sometimes maybe we're just looking at that goal too high. And I'm like, what if we don't meet it? And actually, like I said earlier, Jeff didn't even know whether he's going to finish it.
Yeah. No.
And then when I did my first vEveresting, I thought I'd be on the saddle for like 17 hours, but I'd finish it under 12.
Yeah.
So
Good job.
yeah, it's like, well, yeah, just do it. It's much better to actually be in action. Definitely train. Like what I've been teaching people: training, nutrition, body maintenance, or how you prevent injury. We talk about mental fitness and the strategy. Yeah, that's what Jeff just mentioned. You know, or being organized, planning it. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you, Jeff. I look
Thanks for
forward
having
to
me.
more, and then visiting, you know, all the designs that you're doing. So again, so Jeff, thank you. And again,
Thank you.
next time, I hope that we could have you again later.
Yeah.
All right.
Always.
Have a good
Love to.
evening, Jeff. Bye. Bye, everyone. See ya.